No kidding. Now Michelle's in the lower left to me.
All right, we're live.
Only showing me 3 videos at a time.
I've got 9.
Mine doesn't even show pictures, just whoever's talking comes up.
Oh, weird.
You know what?
Yeah.
Hello,
You guys
City
look like the
Council.
Brady Bunch.
Okay,
All
Jim,
right.
did you want to say something?
Yeah, we're live
Let me
now.
stop here.
Okay, very good.
Hold
Well,
on.
we will end our banter and begin our meeting in earnest then. So good evening, Cresswell. This is Mayor Zettervall. Apologize for the delay in our meeting start tonight. We did have some technological issues with a new interface, and we believe this will better serve us as a team, and will serve the community and be a more stable format for all of us to be able to use it a little easier and give a better broadcast for everybody. So welcome to the City Council meeting tonight for July 13th, 2020. And so first task on my agenda is going to be taking roll. So I will call the roll manually and we will go down it alphabetically. Councilor Castillo.
Councilor Castillo here.
Yeah. Councilor Drago.
Councilor Drago here.
Councilor Knudsen.
Counselor Knudsen here.
Councilor McReynolds Jr.
Councilor McReynolds Jr. here.
Councilor Prochu.
Councilor Prachu is here.
And Mayor Zettervall is here. So we have a full tally here. All right, so we will go ahead and begin our meeting with our public forum. Roberta, has
Excuse
anybody
me?
turned? Yes, ma'am.
Counselor Inman is here.
Oh,
I
my
got skipped.
apologies.
That's
You sure
okay.
You sure did. My apologies, Misty. I so did that for sure. Anyway, Roberta, is there anyone in council chambers or has there been any public comment in the public forum tonight?
Yeah, unmute.
There's no one here and I have no comment.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you very much. So that will move us on to the mayor's report. Mayor's report has a couple of items tonight. So from the office of the mayor, City of Cresswell, I declare this proclamation certifying the results of the May 19th, 2020 election. Whereas the city council referral was filed with the city recorder's office to measure a proposing amendment to the city charter and the ballot. And whereas ballot measure 20-305 appeared on the May 19th, 2020 ballot, asking the voters, shall the City of Cresswell charter be amended to update references to the position of city manager? And whereas Title 1.15 of the Cresswell Municipal Code requires election results to be made as a manual record, and whereas the election results of the May 19, 2020 election have been certified by the Office of the Lane County Clerk and Elections Division, now therefore be it resolved that by the City Council and the City of Cresswell that a copy of the official abstract of votes summarizing the votes cast for ballot measure 20-305 at the May 19th, 2020 election is attached hereto. The official results are 1,183 yes votes and 261 no votes. The original abstract is on file at the city recorder's office of the City of Cresswell, approved by the City Council and the City of Cresswell here on July 13th, 2019. Mayor Zettervall reporting. Second item in the mayor's report is a reminder for the LOC conference, annual conference, which again begins on, it's done in a virtual format this year, as is the mayor's conference this year. Begins on Wednesday, October 14th and concludes on Friday, October 16th. There are several, I'm looking over the roster of the events, and there are several that I think are going to be very impactful, and I hope that councilors do partake in this. I did see that the registration begins on July the 15th, so I encourage those interested to get involved and get yourself registered. So next item on the agenda is a correspondence. Have councilors reviewed these, and is there any comments or questions on the correspondence? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on to the consent calendar, which is item 4. All items listed are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a counselor requests that an item be removed from the consent calendar for a separate consideration. Counselors, are there any items that you'd like removed from the consent calendar? Okay, hearing none, I am entertaining a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Happy to make the motion.
Okay, Counselor Prochu, go ahead, sir.
I move to accept the consent calendar as presented.
Very good. A motion has been made. Is there a second, counselors?
I'll second, Counselor Knudsen.
Very good. Thank you very much. A motion has been made and a second been placed on the motion. Counselors, I will go ahead and call the roll on the vote. Counselor Castilla.
Counselor Castillo votes yes.
Counselor Knudsen.
Counselor Knudsen, yes.
Counselor Knudsen,
Okay. Counselor Grego.
Counselor Drago, yes.
Counselor Inman.
Counselor Inman, yes.
Counselor McReynolds.
Counselor McReynolds, yes.
Counselor Prochu.
Counselor Prachu votes yes.
And Mayor Zetterbold votes yes. Are there any dissenting votes? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. That moves us to item 5 on our agenda tonight, which is our administrative report. Manager Amberg.
Thank you, Mayor. The first thing on the administrative report is the bills. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you might have if you have questions. I don't see any questions. So the next item is the sheriff's calls. And I see that we have Sergeant Denham here. Thank you for jumping in. He was off today, so I really appreciate you coming in and popping into our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant, for your dedication, sir.
No problem.
So does anybody have any questions for the sergeant?
Counselor
I
Knudsen.
do. I see Measure 11 on here.
I do.
No, that's bad.
Well, that is a kid-on-kid sex report that we're still investigating, so we're still working through that. Most of them are so far underage that there probably won't be any type of charges, but we'll be dealing with DHS and juvenile to see how we can rectify the issue. So that's about all I can say for now, because we're still in the kids first process on a lot of that.
Okay, that's disappointing, but thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, and partly we don't have the schools anymore, right? We didn't at the end, so there's not an avenue of education that we can get out there at this point. We're going to have to look at maybe how we can create some community education forums or things like that to help parents recognize different signs and things like that, because this happened quite a while ago over the last couple. So we just have to put some of those things in place and see what kind of education services are out there, but not a lot of them. So it's very difficult.
Yeah, and especially as we move forward with, if we do a distance learning that continues, that all those things fall through the cracks. And it's like something a lot of people don't think about is all those resources. It's not just, the school lunches, but the people out there advocating for those kids are no longer in place and no longer advocating for them because they're not around them and they can't see those signs. So it's definitely been something on my mind, and it's been worrisome to me to think about us going forward and all those kids that don't have advocates for them. So thank you for catching it and reporting it and getting it moving.
No problem.
Counselors, any other questions for Sergeant Denham?
I do.
Counselor McReynolds, go ahead. Need your mic, Martha. I don't hear you.
Sorry, that's rare, huh? I just wanted to say thanks for a calm and expressive third and fourth amendment take. It seemed like folks got to express themselves and have their moment, which I found kind of endearing from my distance. And what would you say about our 4th of July, Deputy Dunn?
I the makeshift parade that moves through town was very respectful of the city's wishes as far as the kind of the parameters we put in, as far as the ordinances that we have that we're able to enforce. And they didn't cause any harm or detriment. Nobody complained, nobody whined, nobody yelled and screamed. So that was good. Fireworks, we had actually 3 calls total of people complaining about illegal fireworks in Cresswell, and one of those happened 2 nights before. So even though, yes, it sounded like a war zone, and there were actually 2 of us in town that were running all over the place attempting to figure out where some of them were coming from, and we encountered 1 that we were able to articulate. But the rest, it went off so fast and so hard all at once. Normally it's spread out throughout the night because of our normal fireworks show. But this one, within the course of an hour, hour and a half, everybody blew up their fireworks all at once. So it's almost impossible to find where it's going on in the city. And I even counted at least a minimum of 1 street that had scouts at each end of the road yelling down the road that cops were coming when I returned onto it. So they, by the time you get there, there's 4 families out there and this family's doing it. So we just have to endure it and be glad that nothing caught on fire and continue to move forward. And hopefully, eventually people will get tired of playing that game. I think sometimes maybe the more we push the fact that we don't want illegal fireworks, the more people go out and get illegal fireworks. This year was particularly big because we knew that there wasn't going to be anything and people were going to go and do what they could. Otherwise, the 4th was fine. We really didn't have anything major.
Okay, very good. Martha, any more questions? Okay, Councilor Prochu, sounds like you had a question, sir?
I do have a couple of quick things. Just wanted to hear how the new deputies are liking Cresswell, how they're doing here.
They are doing well. They're still learning. They're still getting used to the normal players and knowing how the inner workings of kind of working inside the contract go, but they're doing just fine. They seem to be enjoying it more than I think they thought they would, as far as the ability to do things. If you look on your police activity report, you'll see that there was offense against state case numbers where those 7 there. Those are all warrant arrests. And normally, like the last few months, we've had maybe 2 or 3 offenses against state that required case numbers that come out with. Those are normally warrant arrests also, or something we do for an outside agency. But those were all warrant arrests, and over half of them came in the week that the new deputies were here. So that kind of tells you the energy that they bring to being new and being wanting to stop things and talk to people and things like that. So that's a big plus for us because it gets some of those people that are running around town with warrants and just kind of doing their thing off the street, at least being held accountable regardless of how long they've been in jail.
Well, how are you feeling about the additional coverage?
I think it's great. It's already made a difference because people are seeing somebody. They're getting their, they're getting a Saturday and Sunday daytime response, and that's huge for people, I think. So that's happened every weekend that we've had somebody here during the weekend. That those calls are happening. And the first Saturday that we did it, I actually happened to be working at the main office as the main office supervisor on overtime, and Deputy Nixon had 5 calls, but most of them were all the calls for the day. So she had 5 calls that she responded to on that Saturday, the first day that she worked down on the contract. So those are ones that would normally have waited until nighttime to be able to be handled.
I've noticed the additional presence in town, really appreciate that. So yeah, keep up the good work. Last question as always, just wanted to do a check-in on any changes in our homeless or transient population.
Not much. You may have seen one gentleman that kind of stands on the corner over by Coin S or down by the AMPM who we thought was traveling through, but seems to have landed. We've had a big plus that helps us with the population with the purchase of the Super 8, and the individual that bought that is known to us. So he's giving us trespass rights and things like that, so we can actually start enforcing anybody that's going in and getting in the rooms and being on the properties and shouldn't be there. So that'll be a big plus, and that's one little area.
All right, thank you, Sergeant.
And that's good to hear about the Super 8. Are they cleaning up the mold sufficiently enough that your deputies feel safe enough to go in there?
I've been gone for the last week, so they hadn't done anything prior to the time that I left on green. So I haven't had a chance. I'll be back in tomorrow, so I'll be able to check out what's going on up there and what they're doing. We're not really seeing any transients going into that side of the building. There's really nothing there for them to take that's worth of value. But they're breaking in the doors on the other side. And so, you know, there's still refrigerators, microwaves, and all that kind of stuff. A matter of keeping an eye on it and making sure that he's taking that. I'm assuming that eventually they'll probably remove all of those things as they continue to move forward with whatever it is they're going to do. And which will help if you remove the items that they want. But for the most part, it's been looking like they've been kicking doors in just so that they can sleep. And unless the door is open, it's really hard to tell if somebody's in there.
Councilor Castilla, did you have your hand up? I noticed in the people side, I think you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
No, I did not. Where do you see my hand?
On the list, there was a little hand next to you. If you had a question, there's a button you can push and you can get a little hand that raises. So
yes,
I thought I saw that. One of them.
I see the button, but I didn't push it, not intentionally.
Okay. I'm getting some static. It's really important if you're not talking to turn off your mic. And I think the static is actually coming from the mayor because I noticed when his mic, it goes away. Yeah. So, but Councilor Castilla, your mic is live right now.
Okay, councilors, any further questions for Sergeant Denham? Okay, thank you, Sergeant. Really appreciate it. And again, go ahead, sir.
I'll point out to everyone, just so we're kind of tracking on the same sheet of music, you'll notice police activity that there's a significant increase in the public order type calls, over double from our previous months. That's just citizens being out there calling in suspicious people, calling in pretty much just about anything they see. So there really weren't any case numbers or arrests, anything like that came out of that. But it definitely is something that we're going to keep an eye on as far as, what kind of calls are coming in. And I'm going to start to look a little bit at that over the next month or two to see kind of if there's something that we can do to diminish those. I'm not sure that there is. It's more people are home, people are bored, people are seeing everything that moves, and it's light a lot longer over the last month, and it's warmer, so people are coming out and they're out at all hours. So we're going to take a look at that, but thought that was significant to call out so that everybody kind of has an idea that we're going to be taking a look at that, because it is quite a big jump in calls.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant. I really appreciate it. And again, I want to pass along my condolences on the loss of your father too.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. All right, Manager Amberg, I will let you go ahead and finish up.
Okay, the next item.
Administrator.
The next item is the city attorney's report. Did anybody have any questions about that? Okay, then the code enforcement report. Again, Jerry is doing a good job of taking photos, and you can see that he's been working on getting some of the piles of trash at Bald Knob cleaned up. So that's a good thing that you wanted to see that he's responded to. He's also working quite a bit on noxious vegetation removal. And of course, he continues to meet with people and help them better understand our code. He spends a lot of time doing that. The next is the building permit report. It looks like, okay, Council President Knudsen.
I had a question about the code. So when it says trash and garbage and there's 5 violations, is that, you said that's related to Bald Knob?
Not all of those. I'm sorry, not all of them are Bald Knob, but one of them was. The rest he has spotted. He drives around town, and when he spots trash, he does contact the owner and try to work with them to get it cleaned up.
Okay. So the trash cans on the sidewalk has come up as an issue. People not putting their trash can on the curb, but leaving them on the sidewalk, which blocks right of way. And so I wondered how that was being handled.
Right. We have talked to Cenapac, and they've instructed their drivers that the trash cans are to be in the street, not on the sidewalk. Plus, Jerry will go around and try to catch them if he's here and he sees them, or if someone reports them, he will go out to that neighborhood, put door hangers out. We will start putting, if there is someone who repeatedly puts it out, even onto the sidewalk, even though we tell them to put it on the street, we will post it on their trash can, because maybe they're not seeing the door hanger, or there's some, we assume there's some kind of breakdown in communication. If it continues after they have the notice literally taped to their trash can, then they will be cited for a violation and have to come to municipal court.
Okay. Good. I mean, it has to do with safety, really. I'm tired of walking down the street and having to go around people's basketball hoops, people's trash cans, people's cars that are just parked on right of way. So, thank you.
Yes, and it also has to do with the ADA. I mean, that's the reason why the sidewalk is there, is for pedestrians to be able to get from point A to point B. It's not a storage spot. So that's another thing that Jerry has been very actively pursuing, is basketball hoops in the right of way. And I think that is probably one of the more difficult issues he runs into. People feel passionate about leaving their basketball hoop in the right of way, whether it's in the street or on the sidewalk. And I think we actually have a person coming to court for that, and maybe even a trial. So some people are stubborn. But yeah, he is on top of that. He is aware of those issues, and he's trying to work through them.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions about the code enforcement? Okay. Building permit report. We have started getting a big upswing in building permits. People are interested in building here in Cresswell. They're interested in redeveloping here in Cresswell. I would say in June, we saw a big boom in the number of people who were interested in adding on to their house or reconfiguring their house. It's pretty interesting. And it seems to be, after talking to some city managers around the state, it seems to be Cresswell is going through this. Others are seeing just the opposite happen, that their building activity is shutting down. Ours seems to be picking up, so let's hope it stays that way for a little while at least. And then you have the strategic plan goals for the quarterly update for the second quarter of this year. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on that. COVID-19 derailed a lot of the work that could have been done. Mayor?
I have a question under the 1E in regards to the abatement of Bald Knob, and especially the bottom sentence on there is about significant interest in a business from Grants Pass for the Bald Knob property. Have anything you can share at all?
Have you driven past that property on the freeway?
Yeah.
If you've noticed, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you notice, there's some containers that are stacked there, and it says, space. He's interested. That's the business, and right now he's trying to see if being on I-5 at that location actually attracts enough attention for him. So he's put up the sign. What he does is he creates boxes, like containers out of metal. For all kinds of uses. And what he foresees Bald Knob being especially suitable for is creating homes, tiny homes in these metal boxes that he can then ship out using the rail spur to anywhere in the United States, and working with FEMA to do housing for emergencies. So I think that's his whole plan right now. He is in Grants Pass. And he will have to move out of Grants Pass in the next 5 years because the property that he's currently on is being rezoned and will be used for a different purpose. So rather than continue in Southern Oregon, he was very impressed with this location here. And so we're a ways off, and we didn't have time to really get back to him this quarter. He has a lot to do still as far as putting together a business plan that outlines what he needs, but we've already had a meeting with the mayor, or with the governor's regional solutions team. So he's on their radar. He's also on the Small Business Administration radar, and also the Lane Community College Small Business Assistance. So we were able to bring everyone together. We also introduced him to the utilities. So now he has some thinking to do. He's got some marketing to try, and he needs to pull together his business plan so that maybe we can assist him in getting the infrastructure there that he needs. One really positive thing about the new people in the old Super 8 hotel is that they've expressed interest in selling us the right of way. So that will be great, because then we can get access to Bald Knob much easier and have trucks go in and out. Much easier there. So
that's some really positive news. That's really outstanding to hear. Let's keep our fingers crossed to everyone that comes to fruition. Councilors, any questions for the manager, city manager?
I did have a question, brought up the right of way. And I was wondering if you could give us an idea of how much it might cost to purchase the right of way when that time comes.
I would like to leave that number out there because we're in negotiations. So at the time that we actually make an offer, it will have to come to the city council, because I don't have authorization to spend that amount. But yeah, we're in negotiations over that.
All right. So we'll know it when we know it.
Okay. Anything further on the administrative report, Michelle?
Nope, that concludes my administration report, unless you have any other questions.
Councilors, anything? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item 6, which is the council action items. First is public hearing and annexation of 83381 North Harvey Road. Ms. Phillips, you're going to be doing the staff report later. That's right, my apologies. I have the script to read. The City Council will be making a quasi-judicial decision on Annex -2020-02/Zebra C Charlie -2020-02, a request by Jennifer and Jeremy Dockbury to bring approximately 0.55 acres of 83381 North Harvey Road into the city limits, zoned as low density residential. The annexation includes tax lots 4200 and 4201 as shown in the tax assessor's map 19-03-11-00. The property is contiguous to the Creswell city limits on its northern and western boundaries and is located within the Cresswell urban growth boundary. The property takes primary access to North Fifth and Fifth Street and Harvey on the west and has a flag stem access drive to Knee Block Lane to the south. Currently, the Lane County's zoning designation of the tax lots 4200 and 4201 is agriculture, grazing, and timber raising, AGT, and designated as residential land by the Cresswell Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Upon annexation at the request of the applicant, the property will be zoned low-density residential. The application is reviewed under the following sections. Section 4.1.500, type IV, Roman numeral, procedure, and section 4.10, annexation and withdrawals of the Cresswell Development Code. Section Roman numeral 3 and Roman numeral 7 of the Cresswell Comprehensive Plan, statewide land use planning goals 10, housing and urbanization, and under applicable sections of the Cresswell Development Code. Testimony, arguments, and evidence presented must be directed toward the approval criteria or other criteria the speaker believes to the decision. The failure of anyone to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Cresswell City Council and parties opportunity to respond will preclude appeal on that issue. The failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions and approval sufficiently specificity to allow the city to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages on the civil court. I will open the hearing. Public hearing for annexation case number annex-0-2020-02/Zebra Charlie /2020-02 is now open. And councilors, do you have any ex parte contact visited the site or actual or potential conflict of interest or bias to declare? I will go ahead and call the roll on that to get the answers on that. So we will call Councilor Castillo.
Councilor Castillo has no conflict of interest.
Okay. Councilor Drago.
Councilor Drago, no conflict.
Councilor Knutson.
Counselor Knutson, no conflict.
Councilor Inman.
Counselor Inman, no conflict.
Councilor McReynolds.
Counselor McReynolds, no conflict.
Councilor Prochu.
Councilor Prochu, no conflict.
And Mayor Zetterball, no conflict. So that leads us to the staff report, and that will be Madeline Phillips.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. I hope you can see and hear me okay. I'm here tonight to present an annexation of a property that the mayor has just described, but for familiarity, it's at the corner of Niblock and North Harvey Road within the city. That's called North 5th Street. Jennifer and Jeremy Dockery are the applicants, and they wish to bring approximately a half acre, more or less, into the city limits, and that's comprised 2 separate tax lots. I can describe a little bit about the application, but generally speaking, there are a few components to your application that I might highlight just so that you have a good understanding of the material in your packets. The first item that's attached to the ordinance is a legal description of the property. You'll see an aerial map there for ease, and also a tax map that shows where that property is per the assessor's office. Second, and you'll notice that it is about a half acre with a flag stem that attaches, that provides the property with access both to 5th Street and to Niblock Lane. The second sheet you'll see, or the second exhibit, is a petition that lists all the people that live at that property or who have registered to vote at this property. And then the third set of materials, which I apologize is the longest, are the findings of fact and staff report. And I'll give you a couple highlights from that staff report. First and foremost, the property is adjacent to some land that actually is currently under development and was just recently considered by the Planning Commission for the development of 13 lots, which is formerly the Cal and Beth Taylor's property on North 5th Street. This property will not be part of that development, but I just highlight it because it'll trigger your familiarity in the community. The property is not served by water and sewer at this time, which is fairly unusual because we have a legacy water district that serves a lot of properties up North Harvey Road. So in fact, when the applicants came to the city at first, their primary interest is to connect with the water system. The second interest is to see what development potential there is for the property. So at this time, there is no sewer connection, and the sewer connection that will have to be made in the future will be to the Niblock interceptor. That interceptor is a 21-inch sewer main, which is very large for a sewer main, and it is 24 feet deep. So it's very, very deep under Niblock Lane alignment. That's wonderful for our future development. It's very challenging for individual properties to connect with. So what you'll see within your packet is that there are some systems that the applicant would like to connect with sooner, namely water. Others that are contingent upon any future development of the property. Future development can be understood and defined as the division of land or any additional structures being built on the property. So generally they'll be able to connect with water, and we will have an agreement with them that they will connect to the sewer system, the stormwater facilities at the time that they choose to move forward with any further development of the property. A few other highlights are that, well, first and foremost, I guess the one thing that we are trying to do within the city is, as properties annex that have not been incorporated before, we're looking at, first of all, changing the address, but also namely putting the North 5th Street label on those sections of road. The city has owned North Harvey Road, North 5th Street for almost 10 years, since the county transferred it to us in, I believe, 2009 or 2010. Those street tags haven't been updated to reflect that, but it helps to familiarize the community about where the city limits reach to. And generally, there aren't a whole lot of highlights or exciting things other than to say that at some point in the future, because Harvey at North 5th Street is fully improved, any improvement for streets will be a requirement along Niblock Lane. When that road does either go through a local improvement district or some other type of road improvement, they will participate. That agreement that you see before you runs with the land. So even if they sell the property, they're still obligated to participate in an improvement district. I guess the saving grace to the current owner or future owner of the property is that they only own 15 feet of frontage on Niblock Lane, so their contribution will be commensurate with that amount. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you. If there are any questions from counselors or any particularities that you'd like to point out within the staff report or the findings.
Okay, counselors, any questions for Ms. Phillips? Well, you did a great job, Maddie. No questions, my goodness. Okay.
It's a straightforward one.
It looks like it is. It does indeed. Okay, so no questions at this point, so that leads us to the testimony section. So we wish to hear from everyone who is interested in the proposal. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Are there any records to be put into the public record from anyone in the council chambers or in written form?
I have not received any, Mayor.
Okay, and it looks like Roberta is shaking her. Correct? Okay, so it looks like we have no comments on that. So at this point, we will go ahead and, do we need to leave the hearing open for another minute, Maddie? Roberta?
I don't believe so. Typically, if there aren't any written comments and there's no one looking to speak, I don't think anyone's going to show up in a minute. So
I'm seeing the same thing from Roberta and from Michelle both. So at this point, I will go ahead and close the public hearing, and we'll move on to the deliberation portion. Councilors, any further questions for Ms. Phillips? If not, then I am entertaining a motion, please.
I move that the city council adopt ordinance number 541, an ordinance approving the annexation of certain territory at 83381 North Harvey Road to the city of Crestwell and zoning it low-density residential.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Castillo. Greatly appreciate it. Is there a second, councilors?
McReynolds,
Councilor
second.
Roberta, did you have a question?
I do. It needs to be read twice by title.
Roberta, you're still muted.
I don't know how to unmute you. Okay. One second.
There you go.
The motion needs to be read twice by title. It's an ordinance.
That's okay. All right, Councilor Castillo, you'll need to read that one more time, sir, with feeling, as they say.
I move that the city council adopt ordinance number 541, an ordinance approving the annexation of certain territory at 83381 North Harvey Road to the city of Crestwell and zoning it low-density residential.
All right, so now we have the title read twice by title. And I had a race for the second. I believe it was Councilor McReynolds that seconded that motion. Would you like to repeat your second after the second? Okay, very good. We have a motion. We have a second. Councilor, is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I will go ahead and call the roll for the vote. Councilor Castillo. Is your microphone muted, sir? Right, it shows muted.
Oh,
There we go. And your
sorry
vote,
about
sir?
that.
Mhm.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Castillo votes yes.
Okay, Councilor Drago.
Councilor Drago, yes.
Councilor Knutson.
Counselor Knutson, yes.
Councilor Inman.
Counselor Inman, yes.
Councilor McReynolds. You're showing it muted, Martha. Still don't hear you. There we go.
I'm sorry, I'm finding the menu comes up, but it doesn't stay up long enough to affect the change.
Oh, I see.
Reynolds, yes.
Okay, very good. Councilor Prochu
Councilor Prachu votes yes.
and Mayor Zetterval votes yes. And are there any dissenting votes? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. And thank you very much, Ms. Phillips, for a wonderful presentation. As always, you are so professional. It's really a joy to behold, I'll tell you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilors.
You bet. All right, that takes us to item B on the agenda, which is the street funding gas tax. It looks like this one is for Ms. Manager Amberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it's probably time that we revisit the possibility of how we're going to fund some of our street improvements. As you know, we have A Street actually. Today they had their pre-construction meeting, and we do have the funding in place to do the A Street project. However, after that, we do need to find some other revenue sources. This is something we started to talk about back in February, but we had it on the agenda for the work session for March, but the March work session was the first work session we canceled. So this may be very fresh information to you. But we did, I think, at one meeting go through the table that I have included on here that outlines the different revenue sources that we have for transportation projects. But the three that we would really like to know where the council stands are a gas tax, a local improvement district, and a transportation utility. Those three are areas that we don't have any funding coming from those. They're options that are available to cities to raise revenues. The local improvement district is something that would be put in place for people who are receiving a direct benefit from a road improvement, such as if we were to improve 2nd Street, you could put in a local improvement district, and the people along 2nd Street who would benefit from having new sidewalks and improved frontages to their house would actually pay a fair proportion of that improvement, and it would be based on the linear footage along that improvement by house or commercial property. The other is a transportation utility fee. This is typically assessed against properties based on the kind of transportation that comes and goes, the types of use of the facility, and it's based on a set metric that's already determined by an engineering manual. So typically a house would have a certain expectation of a certain number of trips in and out of the house with a vehicle versus like a store that would have many more. So a house might be a transportation category of 1, and a store might have a transportation category of 5. They would pay different fees. It's a monthly fee. It would be on the utility bill, just like the public safety fee. It would be set annually by city council, just like the utility fee, or it could be something that doesn't go up at all, and you just charge it, and it stays that way. This would be a citywide type of fee and would go for the types of things you see listed here. Well, maybe I didn't list what they could be used for, but yeah, they use a trip generation calculator. That's that matrix that I said that has already been determined by engineers. So you fall into a category, and this trip generator tells you which category you're going to be in. If you disagree with your category, or you disagree that you're not generating the trips, there is the opportunity to do a traffic study and, impact the amount that you are being charged. The nice thing about this is it's a very flexible kind of fee. Since it's a fee, the city council establishes it. It doesn't go for a vote, and you can dedicate it to whatever purpose you desire. If you wish to put it towards sidewalks, you could do a transportation utility fee that does sidewalks, and you can say we want to do so many linear feet a year, and then we would calculate what that costs, and then we would back it back into the utility fee to make sure that we were collecting that amount. The thing about a fee is it has to be for identified specific purposes. You can't charge a fee and just have it go to whatever you feel like. The thing about the transportation utility fee is that you could say that, say you wanted to improve Oregon Avenue. You can say everyone benefits from that. And so you can say improvements to Oregon Avenue would be in that transportation utility fee. Again, a lot of conversation needs to go on about these. This is not something you can decide tonight. And of course, the last one that we want to talk about is the gas tax. Now, gas tax, you have some additional information in here that was provided provided by our finance director, Jim Piper. He did some preliminary estimates of what a gas tax might provide on an annual basis. And you can see that 3-cent gas tax would yield $622,000 approximately every year. A 2-cent city gas tax would yield more. That doesn't make sense. I must not be reading it correctly.
The top one is historic.
Yes,
Okay.
it's
the bottom two.
So the bottom two are projected.
Yes. For
And so you can see it is significant if our projections are correct. The problem with gas tax is you cannot unilaterally impose that. Of course, it has to go before the voters. And if you wanted to impose it this year, if you wanted it to go before the voters on January or in November of this year, we really don't have much time. We have to have everything done by August 14th, which means that you have a regularly scheduled work session and no, your your August city council meeting is scheduled for the 10th of August. So it has a very short turnaround time. The good thing about this is that the city already tried to do this once before. And so we pretty much have everything already put together. So we could provide you with the ordinance at the July 27th meeting. And you could direct us to come back with the ballot language on the 10th of August. And that would be something that we would work with our city attorney on. You would determine the amount that you wish to raise. A gas tax is very flexible. You can assign the tax as part of the budgeting process. So if we were really able to raise the $1 million a year that's listed under a 3-cent fuel tax, that would be $1 million that you could direct to any project any year through the budgeting process. It would be identified in our capital improvement plan, and that's how it would move forward. So it is the most flexible, but has the highest type of approval because it needs public approval. And so those are the three I wanted to really talk about tonight. And I'm wondering where you stand on these. This is an information only item. However, if you wanted to do a gas tax, I would recommend that you take some action tonight to direct staff to do that so that we can start the formal process.
All right, thank you very much, Manager Amberg. Council, let's go ahead and weigh in. What are your thoughts?
I do have a thought.
Go ahead, Councilor Cochu.
Okay, if I'm reading this correctly, we're not talking about $1 million a year. It would be $1 million. If it's 3%, then that would be over a 5-year accumulation. Is that right?
Correct.
You're right. I'm just not reading it correctly. I apologize for that.
I would love to have $1 million a year, though. I'll tell you that.
Okay, councilors, any other questions for Manager Amberg?
I have a secondary question, and it's not related to the gas tax. Just mainly wanted to know what you had mentioned other funding mechanisms, and I know that this isn't a particular time, but are bond measures a way that we might think about doing that?
The problem with doing a bond measure is you have to pay the bond back, and we don't have a revenue source at this time to pay a bond back. So
Okay.
we would issue a bond, but we would not have any resources to actually back that bond. Typically, it's backed by some revenue stream that goes to the people who buy the bond in the long run. And we don't have the means to do that right now.
Okay. And the 2% was what you put in the packet as the suggested motion, but I think that we're looking at possibly maybe pivoting a little bit about that tonight. I would like to say that I would support the 3% myself. To throw that out there, I think that that's a reasonable amount for our municipality, city of our size. So.
Okay, councilors, any other comments or questions? Councilor Knudsen.
Thank you for the overview. So this is very helpful in trying to figure out exactly what you're proposing, what it can do, how we can use the money, and who pays for it. And I guess I have a problem with the local improvement district because I just don't believe in some district, some street, one neighborhood having to pay for a street that a lot of us use. If it was a tiny street way out nowhere, but you're talking about, our major streets like South Second, D Street, A Street's getting them proven already, but we're talking about major streets that a lot of people travel to get around. And I just don't like the idea of just putting that on that one district. I don't think that would fly. I mean, you're saying we have to get 51% of the affected property owners' approval to proceed. And I don't think we would ever get that. I think they would all say, maybe someone would say yes, but I just don't think people would go for it. So I feel like that one's kind of out for me. And then you talk about the gas tax. But then the other thing was what? Oh, the transportation utility fee. Where's that one? Again, it seems costly to the city to have to undertake an entire study just to see where we can spend our money. When we know where we need to spend our money, we can look at our streets and our sidewalks and go, yep, that needs improvement. But I understand we have to go through the steps, and a study is one of those steps, but I just don't find that very cost effective for the city. So I guess I'm in favor of the gas tax. Oh, your mic's not on, Michelle.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. The LID would not fall as a burden completely on the property owners. They would only participate in a portion of the fee. So, yeah, they would basically, it would be a formula that would have to be put together by our city's engineers, where we would put in monies that we already get from the state and from our reserves and things like that, sources such as those, and then we would offset the additional costs with some of these other revenue types. Mm-hmm. That's what we're trying to put together, is a package that we can use that's flexible enough to address our needs and provides also, a real value to our citizens. It's really important that it has a lot of value. And I agree, 2nd Street is a major street. And because the buses are on there, it really needs attention. So it's something that, but the homeowners who live along it, I'll reveal I'm one of them, will benefit from having that street paved, as well as having curb and gutter and sidewalk put in. On my side of the street, I don't have curb, gutter, or sidewalk, but my house, the value of my house will actually go up once I have those things, at least on that side. Additionally, I'll benefit from not having the dust from the bus going by several times a day and the deterioration of the street. So, there's those things to consider. And I won't be paying for the entire cost of that section of the street. I'll just be paying a fair cost. The LID is a monthly assessment, a quarterly assessment. It can be however we structure it. People can pay it off right away, or they can pay it off over a period of 10 years. So it's designed to be very flexible and affordable for the homeowner. The transportation utility fee is, you're correct, I would want to have an engineer design it, because it is pretty technical. And it requires an overall assessment of the buildings in town, as well as the types that they would fall into. And I don't know that we have staffing to do that kind of an assessment right now. And then to allocate the proportionate trip estimates to each of those categories. So there's some work that would be done there, but if we don't do that work, we would forego that revenue source. And again, all these things are kind of moving targets. I can't tell you what the utility fee would be, because I'm not sure what would be included in the utility fee. And that's why it's so important to have you involved as the policymakers, because you understand maybe better than I do what the burden is that people are willing to bear in these instances. So your input on this is very valued by myself, and I'm sure the rest of the staff.
I appreciate your pragmatic approach, being a homeowner and wanting to invest in your property, but I'm not sure if that's how most people think about when you talk about taxing just one portion, or asking them to improve just one portion and put in some money, even though it's a long-term loan. I would hate to rely on just that portion to get it done when we all benefit from it. So I guess I would ask Maddie, as our transportation expert. I feel like she knows a lot about how this works and what we do and what we need, and what people would say, what people would go for.
Well, I think Michelle gave a really nice overview of the options. I think what's safe to say is that we have a fairly substantial transportation wish list in the community, and there are certainly some facilities that are high volume facilities that we ought to really take a look at as the first items of business when we talk about prioritizing. And I think you've done that through the budgeting process several years over now, and looking at that capital improvements regarding streets. I think we did a little bit of research over the last 6 months or so in terms of wondering, have there been local improvement districts in Crest? Some of the most recent ones that you might draw on as examples are actually where we just talked about North Harvey Road, 5th Street, was a local improvement district, but it was imposed by Lane County. They were the owners of the facility, and they improved it, placed a district on the entirety of that stretch of road, and then transferred it to the city upon its completion. But historically, and I'd like to, just as a quick shout out to Lloyd Safley and a few others who diligently served on the Planning Commission for many decades. We historically have always used local improvement districts to improve roads, particularly in the oldest parts of Crestwell, the southwest area of Crestwell. That's how all of the roads got paved. So we went back in the records and found agreements back to the 60s and 70s of road projects where neighborhoods decided they needed their road paved because of the road dust that Michelle spoke about, and said, all right, we're going to improve our property value by contributing, and I might be specific that they're only paying for a portion of the improvement, and that portion might have amounted to approximately $7,000 or less over 10 years. So in some cases, it was as little as $1,000. These are different prices from a different era, but I'm happy to provide you with some more detail around that. But generally speaking, communities around us do very well with gas taxes. We have a lot of traffic that comes off the freeway. Jim did a great analysis of how much of that traffic is actually visitor traffic and not community traffic. So that there's an untapped resource there that could very easily be channeled into some of our important roadways.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. That was great. Councilors, any further questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Well, I guess it's a comment, Marley. I agree with Michelle. I like the local improvement district because I do believe it improves the value of your home. And I do believe a lot of homeowners would be willing to invest in their homes. Because I know I would be willing to invest in my home to raise the value and to make it nicer for me. I don't agree with the gas tax right now just because we've already raised the public safety fee, we've already raised water, sewer. And I think people are really economically impacted right now. Like, there's so many people that got wages cut. There's so many people that aren't getting raises, and we're just adding all these fees on right now. And I think it's just, there's a point where it's just too much. That's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Other councilors? Councilor McReynolds?
Yes, thank you. I would just add a note to what Amy was saying regarding certain property owners bearing extra burden. And I'm not making a strong argument, it's just a nuanced idea. I will be affected by any sort of improvements out front. And of course I live in fear of that moment. So this is a concern for me. And D Street is a safe route to school. So if you're talking about certain blocks that are targeted and bearing a weight for the whole community, a safe route to school path would be that. But I am for the gas tax, local improvement districts as needed. But if we can get some gas tax money off the freeway, that's huge. And improvement's important. We just need to be continually moving towards improving, because really we're constantly degrading. You know, the roads are getting worn out as we go, and yeah, it's good to be planning. Of course. I'm done.
Okay. And
just
thanks, Mark. Councilor Inman or Councilor Castilla, Councilor Prochu, any further? Go ahead, Alonzo.
I would just throw in my 2 cents that the gas tax, I would be, and I'm always hate to pay more money on anything, especially for our citizens. But the gas tax, I would be in favor of that, because it seems like everywhere I go right now, I am paying gas tax, except for in my own city. So, yes, I would be in favor of the 3 cents gas tax. The other two mechanisms, I feel like I need more information. Unfortunately, we couldn't get into it through the work session, but you know, it is what it is. So that's my 2 cents.
Or 3 cents in this case, right?
Yes, sir. 3 cents.
Misty, did you have any comments?
Yes, I did. Thank you. So I as well would be in favor of the gas tax. However, I think right now to spin off what Councilor Drago said is not at this point. A lot has been added for people and the economic burden that folks carry. So I think right now wouldn't be the time. The local improvement, it's a mix. I think it would help homeowners improve their property. However, I would be concerned of homeowners buying into that or wanting to be a part of that. I mean, you say, example, $7,000. I kind of cringe at $7,000. So, you know, where would homeowners fall in that? And would that be something that they would want to add to their mortgage and their other bills? I would like some more information on the third one, which was the transportation utility fee. I'm undecided on that one and would like to get some more information. So that's it.
All right, thanks, Misty. Appreciate it. Kevin, did you make your comment already?
I think I'm good. I had another question that was just really regarding the Second Street project and whether LTD has to kick in on that one, but that's not necessarily part of this conversation.
Okay. Michelle, did you have an answer for that quick question? I see Alonzo has a question as well.
We would like for them to pay a fair share. That's one of the things about Second Street that makes it special, though, is it's going to be more expensive perhaps than some of the other streets that are not having commercial weighted vehicles driving up and down them. You know, a lot of our residential streets don't have the impact that is on Oregon Avenue, Highway 99, and 2nd Street right now because of the buses. So that would be something that we would want to have a discussion with them about.
Yeah, those buses are heavy.
Okay, Councilor Castilla, it looks like you had a question, then I'll be going over to Councilor Knudsen.
Yeah, just one last comment, sir. What I really like about the gas tax is we would be putting that in the hands of the voters. So just I'd like to add that.
Yeah, so I guess that was my, if we put it on the ballot and it passes, when will it be in effect?
That's a good question. I'm not prepared to answer that, but typically it would go into effect whenever the ordinance states. So I would have to review the ordinance, but I can, Roberta has found that ordinance for me last week. I apologize that I'm not as prepared on this as I could be. I've been really trying to get this community development block grant out. I was even here over the weekend working on it. So but I can certainly provide enough information for our work session so that you'll have, I have a much clearer idea of your questions and your concerns now. And I really appreciate that and can provide much better information going forward.
So follow up to that. I mean, I'm guessing, so it doesn't get voted on until November, and then at least a month or two for the ordinance to take effect, because it's not like it's immediate. So we're talking about a tax hitting us in maybe December or January, which is, you know, it's a good 6 months off from now. But yeah, we put it to the voters and they say no, then we have our clear answer and we can go to the next thing. So then I guess a follow-up question for you to come back to us at the work session is, if it doesn't pass this time around, when's the next special election that we could put it on? Because it is a short time to try to campaign for that and to try to push for that and to try to get that information out to the people that are going to be voting on it. So I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't pass, but at least maybe we put it on people's radar that it's something we're considering. And then if we really want to do it the next time around, then we can really push for that. So I guess the follow-up would be, when's the next election we could put it on?
I did ask Roberta that question, and she is our elections official. And there are 4 elections a year. The great thing about doing it in November is there would be no cost to the city. If we do it in a special election or even in a May election, we share the cost of that ballot. So whatever else is on the ballot, we would pay our proportionate share for having that on the ballot. So rather than having an early spring election, I would suggest we wait until May, because there's a lot of other things that typically come on the ballot in May for special districts. So we may have somebody else putting something, a bond measure or something on there, which may not be the best time to put it on the ballot. And you may want to wait maybe even a year to do it. Like I said, we do have A Street going this year. 2nd Street, we could certainly use the funding from a gas tax for 2nd Street, as you noted, as soon as possible. Start collecting that, because that's going to be a very expensive project, far more expensive than A Street. But even if you waited a year and put it on a November ballot, you could do that. But probably the May ballot would be something to look towards.
Okay, very good. Well, I haven't weighed in yet, so I've waited for all councilors to share their opinions. So I too am in favor of the gas tax. I'm more in favor of the 3 cent per gallon gas tax myself. It's something, you know, Councilor Castilla mentioned that I've paid gas taxes in every city I've lived in, and this is the first one I haven't. So as also, I've also paid the LIDs in other cities. I've had sewer added to my property on a couple of homes that I've owned. I've had street improvements, sidewalk improvements. So those are all things that I've customary to paying. So for me, I'm fine with both of those and would like to move forward with more information at our work session on those regards. So with the suggested motion, Michelle, do we need anything at this point, or are you just garnering information to bring back in July 27th?
Well, I gave you a suggested motion. You don't have to follow this motion, because you can just direct staff to work with the city attorney to prepare whatever level of gas tax the city council has desired. I put in 2 cents because I didn't have the opportunity to ask you what your preference was, and I thought 2 cents was pretty conservative. So it would be good if someone made this motion, you know, so that we know what the direction is very clearly from the city council, whether you want the 2 cent gas tax, whether you want it to go on the November 3rd election. You know, I think you don't necessarily have to say and bring back the information for the work session. We'll just do that if you decide that that's what you want to do. But yeah, we do need to know the amount. And I think it would be good if it was moved and seconded so that we have clear direction.
All right, that's kind of my perception as well. So in that case, I am entertaining a motion, council.
Make the motion.
Go ahead, Councilor Prochu.
Okay, I move that the city council direct staff to work with the city attorney to prepare a 3-cent gas tax for the November 3rd, 2020 election and bring back this information to the July 27th, 2020 work session for further consideration.
Okay, a motion has been made. Is there a second?
Council Knudsen.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion, council? Okay. Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Councilor Castillo.
Counselor Castillo votes yes.
Councilor Drago.
Counselor Drago votes no.
Councilor Knudsen.
Councilor Knudsen votes yes.
Councilor Inman.
Counselor Inman votes yes.
Councilor McReynolds.
Counselor McReynolds votes yes.
Councilor Prochu.
Councilor Prachu votes yes.
And Mayor Zetterval votes yes. We have one dissenting vote with Councilor Drago. That makes a 6-1 approval. Thank you, Council, for the consideration on that measure. All right, so item number 6C we move to, and that is the provide the League of Oregon Cities with our top 4 2020 legislative priorities. This looks like it goes to Manager Emberg.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, every year the league asks you to help them outline what their legislative priorities are going to be for the next session. And so I provided you with the list of priorities, and this is the feedback that I received. And you can see the chart that was put together, and now it's time for council to make the selection.
Okay, very good. Councilors, are any questions for Manager Emberg? All right, well, hearing none, I am entertaining a motion, please.
I'll do it.
Councilor Knudsen, go ahead.
I move that the city council direct the city manager to notify the Oregon League of Cities of the following top 4 legislative priorities for the city of Creswell: COVID-19 economic recovery, property tax reform, low-income energy efficient housing, state highway funds formula.
Very good. A motion has been read. Is there a second to that motion?
Counselor Drago, second.
Thank you, Councilor Drago. Appreciate that. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Councilor Castillo.
Counselor Castillo votes yes.
Okay, Councilor Drago.
Counselor Drago, yes.
Councilor Knudsen.
Councilor Knudsen, yes.
Councilor Inman.
Counselor Inman, yes.
Councilor McReynolds.
Counselor McReynolds, yes.
Councilor Prochu.
Councilor Prachu, yes.
Mayor Zetterval votes yes. Is there any votes in opposition? Hearing none, measure passes unanimously. So that leads us to the conclusion of our meeting. I do want to remind council that we do have a July 27th, 2020 virtual telephonic city council work session at 6 p.m. So this will be a reestablishment of our work sessions, and hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit more work done. I don't know if we're going to have a return to our normal meetings in anytime soon, with the pandemic being what it is and the criteria we have from our governor and so forth. But we are doing a good work. The city of Creswell is moving forward, and I thank you all for your very dedicated support. So you all have a good evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Creswell, for tuning in.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle, for all your hard work.
Yep.
Good night, all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good evening.